Let's talk about how to express opinions in IELTS speaking. Now, expressing opinions or giving your thoughts is an important part of the IELTS speaking test, especially in part three when you have a two-way discussion with the examiner. You also need to justify your opinion or explain why you have that opinion. By justifying your opinion, you will be extending your response and making sure you're having a proper discussion with the examiner, which you need to do in part three. In this lesson, we'll look at some ways how you can express your opinions and justify them. And to do this, we usually use adverbial phrases at the start of the sentence. Now, let's talk about some ways of expressing opinions or saying what you think about a topic. So, for example, the expression clearly or obviously, it means easy to understand or see. Example, clearly the economy is not going to improve this year. Or you can use personally, which means showing that it is your opinion. You can say, personally, I don't think the legal drinking age should be reduced. Others may disagree. Or you can use generally, which means usually or in most situations. Example, generally, the trains are a lot more reliable than the buses in my country. And next we have surprisingly, which means unexpectedly or in a way that is unusual. Example, surprisingly, the government prohibited smoking in all public places last year. I never thought this would happen. And then we have inevitably, which means in a way that cannot be avoided. Example, I didn't study much. Inevitably, I didn't get the score I needed. And we can also use predictably, which means as expected. Example, predictably, problems are now occurring in the city because of overpopulation. Frankly means to be honest and direct. Frankly, I wish I'd waited before taking the IELTS test as I'm not ready. And then lastly, we have sadly, regrettably, or unfortunately means unhappy, sad, or sorry about something. Regrettably, my family could never return to their country because of the Civil War. And then after expressing your opinions, here are some ways that you can justify them. So you can use across one sentence, like subject verb as the government has invested a lot of money into the system because the government has, since the government has, due to the fact that the government has. So you can also have a noun phrase like generally the trains are a lot more reliable than the buses in my country. So you can use because of the government's investment of money into the system or due to the government's investment of, as a result of the government's investment of, or as a consequence of the government's investment of. Or it could be across two sentences. So you have the same sentence. Generally, the trains are a lot more reliable than the buses in my country. So you have the subject verb. The reason for this is that the government, or this is because the government has, this is due to the fact that the government has, or it could be a noun phrase. This is due to the government's investment of, this is because of the government's investment of, this is a result of the government's investment of, and lastly, this is a consequence of the government's investment of.